Chocolate! Chocolate!
Let's chat SpongeBob. In honor of the amazing Steven Hilberg, who we recently lost to ALS, I think we should look back at his creation, SpongeBob, a creation that's brought me and so many other people many pleasant memories. Even in just animation alone, there's something just unabashedly fun and joyous about SpongeBob that always makes these lists fun to make. So let's look back at the top 10 best SpongeBob episodes. And pardon me if I do miss one of your favorites. This could easily be a top 30, so feel free to leave your own personal favorites in the comments.
So, Strider, we finally meet.
Enter. The pleasure is mine. I really do feel this is a list we should do together. SpongeBob has been a very important part of both our channels.
I agree. Let's do these episodes some great justice.
Alright, let's go. Number 10. Ripped Pants. This is an episode that just gives me a warm feeling of goodness from start to finish. It's simple, yet so elegant and beautiful in execution.
The first season gave us some pretty decent humor, but it had a lot of creativity and really good storytelling. It also gave its fair share of pretty good messages.
Yeah, and those messages weren't bashed over our heads. They had an elegant subtlety to them. In fact, Ripped Pants was probably the first episode to give a strong message.
The main message here is pretty straightforward. You shouldn't change yourself into something that you're not just to make people like you.
Which it conveys through SpongeBob. He goes from enjoying his time with Sandy, to being worried that Sandy won't want to hang out with him, to him discovering a one-trick way to keep her enjoying his company.
Ain't he the funniest little sponge you ever saw?
And then exploiting it.
Except I ripped my pants.
Everything our spongy friend goes through is pretty typical for kids and young adults trying to discover their identity.
In this case, SpongeBob comes across something funny that gets others' attention, but he overdoes the joke until it's just mostly silly and annoying.
Because I ripped my pants! Ah!
That kind of stuff is uncalled for.
What is that?
But it's portrayed in a very entertaining, well thought out and well paced manner. It's even capped off with a catchy song that backs up its meaning, really bringing home a good message, but in a very funny way. The tune's actually a Beach Boys parody, which is a great choice. Ripped Pants is like a kiss on the cheek that made me laugh and inspired me at the same time.
It was a great second episode for the show. I'd argue this was the first time that viewers felt a genuine connection with SpongeBob.
This episode told me from the start, Steven Hilberg knew what he wanted his show to be, and I consider it the first big success of SpongeBob. And for number 9, Sandcastles in the Sand. I think you recommended this one, didn't you, Enter?
Yeah, I did, although that was before season 11 came around. But I still rate this episode quite highly. It's definitely a standout in season 6. The same one where we got House Fancy's ripped toenail. Whatever the hell the splinter was, and the less said about Truth or Square, the better.
Season 6 had its lousy moments, but this episode really showed a massive surge of creativity. Sandcastles perfectly blends the exaggerated tone of season 6 with the creativity and uniqueness of the first 3 seasons.
Interestingly, it keeps looking like this episode is going to go awry at the start, with SpongeBob and Patrick annoying bystanders on a bus and at the beach, but they're quickly encouraged to do something far less obnoxious.
And this is where things really pick up. Essentially, SpongeBob and Patrick are just building sandcastles, but it slowly progresses into the Great Sand War of the Ages. Basically, what a good imagination might picture in a regular sandcastle war.
A bit like Wet Painters, a big reason this episode stands out is because of the animation. It gives us some really cool visuals. The weaponry and the structures between these two, they become progressively more advanced as the sand battle goes on.
We go from medieval weapons like lances, bows, and arrows to current-day war weaponry like planes, tanks, and auto missiles.
It's really creative, and unlike a lot of Season 6 episodes, the gags actually work.
Patrick and SpongeBob are simply immersed in their game, and as a result, I get immersed in their game right along with them, and it's a blast.
Sandcastles is good evidence that Season 6 could have been a pretty good season. A lot of the episode seems to focus on telling stories through animation, but many also try to throw in gross-out humor. This was the first time that it really felt like Season 6 got it right.
Oh, hello, and goodbye.
And for number 8, Scavenger Pants. This one doesn't get mentioned a lot, but to me personally, it's a really special episode. There are times when the comedy, the timing, the characters, the speed and charm of SpongeBob just all come together so succinctly. And I think Scavenger Pants is one of the best late season examples of this. It's simple yet beautifully absurd, and the shamelessly over-the-top jokes just all hit for me with this one and leave me smiling.
This rope is too short. We need another one. Thanks, Patrick. Where'd you get another rope?
From that rock!
It starts with Squidward dancing around, but he is, of course, interrupted by SpongeBob and Patrick, so he sends them on a scavenger hunt to get rid of them. Yet no matter how insane an item he asks them to pick it up, they still manage to get it.
There's so many good examples of great comedy timing here. They even bring in the Loch Ness Monster at one point. Or look at this sign joke. I mean, this joke is so obvious, yet it makes me chuckle every time. I mean, of course SpongeBob and Patrick are going to choose the Badlands. But all the way through, I want to see SpongeBob and Patrick succeed, so it comes off as very charming. Even tiny details like the wordplay jokes are delightful.
The rare desert sandwich!
The Sandwich was a character I really liked, despite her only being on screen for 15 seconds.
No worries, I used to work in an evil deli.
SpongeBob and Patrick are actually on their scavenger hunt for what appears to be months, and it feels like we get a lot of different scenarios in a very short time here.
Squidward's brother?
Scavenger Pants was almost like an early Looney Tunes episode to me. Squidward will linger just long enough that we get that comic satisfaction from seeing him blown down by the door. And the ending is one that has me laughing out loud even 6 watches later, so I won't spoil it for you.
Season 11 had some really good episodes, and episodes like Scavenger Pants are proof that SpongeBob still has its moment of charm and brilliance, even today.
Number 7. Pretty much ever since the show started, there's been a certain running joke that both the fans and the show love to use.
My leg! My leg! My leg!
It really was only a matter of time before they gave the joke its own episode. Normally this kind of thing could be considered self-indulgent, but fans of the show really seem to enjoy this one.
For such a simple running gag, it really was given the golden treatment. This episode's almost like one big creative montage of gags based on Fred's injuries.
My leg!
And SpongeBob's injuries. And a ton of leg-based comedy that surprisingly never feels repetitive. And a lot of it comes from just SpongeBob's reactions to Fred's daily life.
This is his job!
You see, just about everything in Fred's daily life puts his leg in major danger. This leads to amazingly comical results.
And all these jokes come together nicely in a well-executed and unexpected ending that isn't necessarily sensible reasoning, but it does explain why Fred is always hurting his leg, adding a little extra depth to this long-running joke.
My leg!
Is an episode that reminds me why I enjoy SpongeBob. They really can just do so much with so little. I mean, not every show can turn a running joke about a guy hurting his leg into a full episode that's funny, well-constructed, and thoroughly entertaining. Another fine example of Season 11 getting back on track.
A shame that it's partnered with Ink Lemonade, but that's a story for another day.
And we should step on it. It's almost time for her break.
I'd say it's almost time for your break.
And the 6th best SpongeBob episode is Wet Painters. An episode about painting walls, turned into a thrilling, suspenseful epic. How did they manage this?
Well, that tends to make the best kind of SpongeBob episode. The ones that turn a simple story into something intriguing and memorable.
It's insane! Despite SpongeBob and Patrick painting walls, I never know what to expect next with this episode.
3 hours later.
Can you move it along? I'm all out of time cards.
It's also filled with some of the most memorable imagery from the show, but the best aspect of this episode has to be the jokes. They're just constantly fired at us, and almost all of them are clever and they toy with the viewer's expectations.
First, we need to set out the tarp.
Tarp ahoy!
We're gonna need more coverage, Patrick.
Like, SpongeBob's reaction as Patrick slowly screws up their plan over and over again with a dollar note has me in stitches every time I see it.
No! Patrick, no! Why did you put it? Ah! Grab it, Pat! Grab it! Hurry! Hurry! No, Pat, no!
There's just so many classic jokes in this episode that you're bound to laugh at least one joke.
In scenes like them trying to clean the paint off the dollar, we actually get some jokes within jokes.
Did it work?
And Krabs gets just the right amount of karma back for making SpongeBob and Patrick paranoid and not paying them a cent for the job, making for a very satisfying conclusion. The episode's also another great example of how much humor the show can get just from its animation, because the verbal jokes aren't anything that special, but it's the over-exaggerated animation that accompanies them that makes them work so well. I seem to discover more humor within Wet Painters every time I watch it. It's simply SpongeBob comic gold.
We're not cavemen. We have technology.
And for number 5, Salem Mouth. Hey, isn't this Gem Review's favorite episode?
It sure is. I absolutely loved this episode.
What the?
Hey, how's it going, Enter and Strider?
Ah, hey Gems, good to see you. Want to help review your favorite episode?
I'd be happy to. If you want a textbook example of how you can make an entire episode that uses the exact same joke over and over spectacular, then this is the episode you're looking for.
Yeah, it's probably among the best examples of how SpongeBob can excel with one simplistic idea.
The whole episode is about SpongeBob and Patrick learning a bad word and sharing it with the world, which may sound annoying on paper, but I think it's among the funniest episodes of the show.
And it's relatable too. At some point in many people's childhood, they probably came across a word they didn't understand, but thought it sounded cool, only to find themselves shocking an adult after repeating it.
It's a pretty relatable incident, and this episode takes full advantage of its relatability. Also, the way SpongeBob and Patrick discovered the word is alone a great subtle joke about having a filthy mouth.
And the way SpongeBob and Patrick use the word and the subsequent reactions are all very different and creative, despite all having the same punchline. And Mr. Krabs' reaction is an excellent portrayal of a parental reaction, and sets up the ending for when Mr. Krabs himself starts swearing.
Oh my foot! What? She just put a rock in a bath! Can't you see I got a foot here?
And speaking of the ending, even if you can't understand a word they're saying, the movements, the constant overlapping of censored words, and Mr. Krabs trying to plead his case visually in the background, all of it is simply perfect.
It's like all these things keep the other jokes in the scene fresh. It's pure comedic insanity, and it works perfectly. And it's really no surprise this episode was brilliant, seeing as most of the staff who worked on the first 3 seasons came from Rocko's Modern Life, which is one of the most adult kids' cartoons out there.
But am I the only one who thought the sounds that were coming out of their mouths were the actual words they were using? I mean, I thought that's why we never saw dolphin characters in this show, because they were all banished for using filthy language. Hell, maybe that's the real reason Bubbles was the last of his tribe.
Well, either way, it's a classic episode that many people can relate to. I guess in Bikini Bottom, swearing does get you somewhere. Thanks, Jem.
Anytime. Thanks for having me, Strider.
Number 4. Pizza Delivery. This is a great example of SpongeBob and Squidward at their best and working off each other perfectly. And as an ex-pizza guy, I can say it hits the feelings of the job pretty well. It's a perfect little jab towards people who've worked these jobs. SpongeBob plays the upbeat new guy on the job, taken to the extreme. In fact, he is absolutely hell-bent on getting this pizza to the customer, even at the cost of his own health. I mean, it's nothing more than a simple pizza delivery job between SpongeBob and Squidward. That's all they had to do. Yet somehow it turns into a disastrous adventure, where everything that could go wrong does go wrong. I'd actually call it a great example of SpongeBob's iconic, incorruptible positivity, but not to the extent where he simply seems stupid or shallow.
Yeah, SpongeBob actually seems genuinely passionate and excited about every individual customer that he serves.
It feels like he's actually taking the time to care about every individual person on the job.
Let go of the pizza!
No, it's for the customers.
Jeebus, SpongeBob. Any pizza shack or restaurant would be dying to have you on their staff.
Even tornadoes and endless wandering through the desert later, he's still excited and determined to get the pizza to the customer.
I mean, even when he's starving to death, he still refuses to eat the pizza. Just wow. That is dedication to a job. I want to hire SpongeBob just so I can give him a raise.
Squidward, however, plays the bitter guy who's been there for far too long. He's lost care for how well of a job he does anymore, and he just wants this delivery over with.
Can't you just get SpongeBob to do it? Great idea! Take him with you. Rusty Cray!
Something I also appreciate about these early episodes is that at this point, Squidward was begrudgingly along for the ride. He often got more actively involved in SpongeBob's crazy ideas. He doesn't even moan that much about SpongeBob. He just begrudgingly accepts that SpongeBob is going to be endlessly cheery the whole way and just tolerates it, and it makes Squidward a lot more likable.
What many people remember most about this episode is how well it portrays Squidward's morals. It shows just how redeemable Squidward can actually be. Even though he may be cynical and bitter at times, he still knows SpongeBob doesn't deserve the treatment that he gets after all of his hard work.
Exactly. He recognizes SpongeBob's care for each person and stands up for him, just wanting to give SpongeBob the satisfaction of one satisfied customer after starving and traveling the desert for days, I'm guessing?
This one's on the...
Did he change his mind?
He sure did. Ate the whole thing in one bite.
No drink?
No.
There's a sense of warmth and companionship to these two at this point, and I always found myself smiling at the end.
This episode remains one of the best examples of how comedically synchronized this duo can be.
No drink?
No.
And the third best SpongeBob episode is Mimic Madness.
Are we having fun yet, Squidward Tentacles?
Oh, that's it! I can't stand that perfect impression of me anymore!
Mimic Madness was one of the standout hits of Season 10. It's considered by many, myself included, to be one of the best episodes of the entire show, not just the later seasons.
Yeah, I think a big reason for that is because everything about it plays off the show's strengths.
80,000 impressions later.
Would you please stop imitating me? It is starting to get very annoying.
Starting with what is easily one of the show's strongest elements, Tom Kenny, SpongeBob's voice actor. This man is a voice acting guru with 1,000 voices up his sleeve. His impressions of the other characters are spot on, and he brings a lot of personal charm to them.
Hey there, Patrick, old buddy.
It's a shame they don't give more for Tom Kenny to work with like this more often, because his amazing voice, tones, and pitches is part of what has constantly kept this show aloft, even in its worst times.
I like to use science for good.
Really? I always use science for evil!
The animation is extremely creative. When SpongeBob changes from character to character, it's very smooth. The facial expressions are all great, and it adds further humor to what is already a fantastic performance.
And once again, the episode gives us a delicious icing on the cake with another excellent song.
Who am I?
I have a right to know.
Who am I? Am I friend?
Or foe?
I like that this song starts out very calm, but gets progressively more and more intense, before ending in the same calm it started in. It's just like a perfect wave. The music score is very polished, and the lyrics are not only well written, there's a new impression almost every line. I mean, that is a complicated song to record, but again, this episode is putting faith in Tom Kenny. They're trusting him to make it work, and boy howdy, he sure does. And the gang's method of bringing SpongeBob back to his senses is a nice little follow-up to the song. It's great seeing their own impressions of SpongeBob in such an over-the-top manner, but it also shows how much his friends truly know him, which gives it more of that old SpongeBob charm. A charm factor that always mixes well into the comedy, making for both memorable and relatable moments.
Mimic Madness plays to every single one of the show's strengths, and it's among the best all-around episodes of the show. It's no surprise that this episode brought many fans back to SpongeBob.
And the second best SpongeBob episode is...
Chocolate!
Chocolate with Nuts. Chocolate with Nuts is just pure SpongeBob goodness. It's the simplest setup in the world. SpongeBob and Patrick want to be rich entrepreneurs, so they start selling chocolate. And the creative little scenarios of how they dramatically fail in this simple task is both funny and brings a smile to my face.
SpongeBob and Patrick go through every single bit of salesperson hell here. They come across crazy people, better salespeople, and customers who aren't just interested in what they're selling.
Isn't that right, lover boy?
It tickles.
And something just always goes wrong for them. Like, they can't even manage to sell one freaking chocolate bar because they've been so severely swindled into buying bags that they can't find a chocolate bar within the bags of the bags. But that's part of what makes this simple plot so great, because we're watching SpongeBob and Patrick slowly learn the process of sales. Whether it be bending the truth, outright lying, being overly friendly, hard selling, you name it.
Hello, young lady.
This is one of the episodes that always brings me back to what makes SpongeBob so special to me. Just watching SpongeBob foolhardily be himself, run into problems, and haphazardly deal with them in his own spongy way. I actually think if you went into a crowded place and yelled, "Chocolate!" many people would understand what you were referencing. Before kicking you out, anyway. But the chocolate scene isn't the only part that people remember fondly. Mary, her zombie-esque mother, the sleazy sales guy. All of them are just so memorable because they all contribute in a big way to the episode and the lessons learned.
None of these characters are used just as tools to move along the plot. They all have defined characters, defined motives, and they're all given something to do that actually leads into affecting SpongeBob and Patrick. It's the show's writing at its finest.
Overall, Chocolate with Nuts is a classic episode, and for good reason. I saw it once, and I've yet to forget it, even 17 years later.
1 chocolate bar for the night.
Chocolate!
Lady.
Chocolate! Chocolate! Chocolate!
And before we get to number 1, just a couple of quick honourable mentions. Suds. Something I like about many of the good SpongeBob episodes is you can look back on them as an adult and sometimes see a deeper meaning, which is certainly the case with Suds. It basically teaches people about the dangers of self-medicating. The episode shows how trying to make a condition of yours better when you have no idea how to make it better can actually make it worse. But it also shows how you can realize when you're getting worse.
No bubbles! Patrick, your treatment is working!
You think so?
Sure!
The Krusty Krab training video. This is easily the most colourful, unpredictable, and interesting training video I've ever seen, with a ton of good jokes crammed in. But what is that formula? It's gonna send me as mad as Plankton.
Are you sure? Okay, the secret formula is...
Have you seen this snail? There are some great SpongeBob specials out there, like Dungeons & Dragons or Friend or Foe, but I think Have You Seen This Snail was a great combination of humour, storytelling, and overall good feels. I think a lot of people lost pets as kids. I personally lost 6 mice and 4 guinea pigs, and 3 fish and 2 cats and 7 snails. Anyway, my incompetence aside, I think losing a pet is a pretty relatable feeling to many people. Normally, I groan at the lost pet cliche in cartoons, but this episode portrays it straightforward and with no manipulation. But I suspect what many people remember most about this episode is that really nice song. I think it touches on notes that both the young and the older can relate to. I think it's the kind of song that takes SpongeBob out of just being entertainment for kids and hits a universal emotional note. Squid Noir. I think many animated kids shows have at least one noir-style episode, but this episode perfectly combines the craziness of the show with that calmness and melancholy of the noir style. It even has some great parodies thrown in. It gives the noir style the full treatment, and comes out with a fun little mystery and a satisfying, albeit simple ending.
And that's how it ended. Clarinet returned, case closed. Another mystery solved by Squidward Tentacles, Jazz Detective.
Anyway, on to number 1. And the number 1 best SpongeBob episode is... I couldn't personally think of any other episode that is more deserving of this spot than Band Geeks. I just love this episode. It's essentially the magnum opus of the first 3 seasons, and it's often the episode people associate with the golden age of SpongeBob.
Yeah, I have to agree. So many moments of this episode are very fondly remembered, by new and old fans, and for good reason. Some of these quotes are still being tossed around on the internet, even 18 years later.
Is mayonnaise an instrument?
No, Patrick, mayonnaise is not an instrument. Horseradish is not an instrument either.
Its visual humor with the instruments is still as funny today as it was over a decade ago. But most of all, its ending. By Jeebus, that ending. Every time I see this ending, I get goosebumps. The first time I watched it, I shed a tear. It's a freaking transcendent moment. And it's freaking SpongeBob.
The ending's probably the show's most memorable moment of all time. It's pretty much a standalone representation of the show, and when you combine it with the fact that this is the first time we see Squidward truly succeed in his dream, it makes it even more beautiful and iconic. For all Squidward's torture, all his suffering, bitterness, and failure, this was truly his most golden, glorious moment.
And what I like is every character is genuinely trying their best to make this moment perfect. And it's incredible seeing them all come together in this one beautiful, perfect moment. And it's surprising because the rockstar image is not something you'd think these designs would pull off so well.
Actually, Sweet Victory wasn't even created for the show. It was actually created by a rock singer named David Glenn Isley, but it certainly feels like it was made just for this episode. That's how fitting it is.
From the moment the episode first debuted, viewers could feel that it was something special. Band Geeks is a bit like a well-crafted song. It has a consistent rhythm, and it works in serious and humorous tones in a way that flows harmoniously.
Band Geeks is easily SpongeBob's best episode, even 20 years later, and it highlights the golden moments that SpongeBob stood out in animation history.
It's no surprise fans wanted to see this song performed at the Super Bowl as a tribute to Steven Hilberg, because I can't think of a more fitting episode to sum up Hilberg's talent and brilliance than this episode right here. I consider Band Geeks the #1 best SpongeBob episode. Whether we've got more good or bad SpongeBob episodes, I think at this point, Spongebob Squarepants has delivered so much to animated comedy, the timing and general feel of modern cartoons, that I would actually call it timeless. And for all the average episodes we have had in mid-seasons, there's been enough timeless episodes over the years that I can forgive the lousier episodes. SpongeBob remains one show I'm always excited to review, for the laughs, for the nostalgia, and even sometimes for the feels. And the reason this all happened was Steven Hilberg. He created SpongeBob by combining two of his biggest passions, marine biology and animation. Every episode he took part in felt like it had something extra thrown in, something that was noticeably absent when he left the show the first time round. In fact, every episode he worked on felt like it had that same effort and passion that SpongeBob has. Thanks, by the way, Enter. This has been a way more fun and rich experience with your help.
It was a pleasure to help, Strider. This was definitely an interesting experience. I'd better head back to my channel. I can already hear the robots uprising. Until we meet again.
Until we meet again. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.